checked my cervix and she goes, yeah, I'd say you're about 9 centimeters dilated. Pardon? I was really trying to stay in control of those contractions as much as absolutely possible. Because we got to the hospital so late, there was no chance for medication. He's gonna be like 7 pounds probably. Like it's gonna be awesome. He's gonna be a little on the smaller side. No, 9 pounds, 1 ounce. I'm a mom now. That's crazy. It's so bizarre to say. Anyways, I am here with, this is our sweet baby Archer, and I want to share my birth story with you. I think it's really cool that we can share birth stories with each other, because birth can be a really scary thing, and it can also be one of those things that we are really scared coming up to it, but then as we travel through the experience, it's actually not as scary as we thought. But the anticipation of it and the anxiety of it is very real. But I think it's really awesome to, listen to other people's birth stories that went positively. I want to share it with you because it was a really, really amazing experience. If this is the first time you have ever seen my face, my name is Sydney. I have been taking you guys through my pregnancy. We are just carrying right on through to motherhood, to postpartum, to all of the fun things that happen during that time period. I have 1,000,001 things that I want to film over the next little while in regards to postpartum, in regards to becoming a mom, and just I want to be as real and as honest and as realistic as possible for a lot of these things, because motherhood is not perfect. And regardless of what we see on social media, it's messy and it's confusing and it's sometimes scary, and I think just seeing realistic things about it is important rather than just like all the perfect things. Ugh. Don't mind me. I'm just a new mom. That's where that yawning is coming from. Okay, so my birth experience was nothing short of amazing. It was hard. It was painful. It was, all of the things, but it was pretty incredible, and I'm extremely thankful for the experience that I was able to have. I just want to share my story with you. I love my birth story. I am proud of my birth story. Okay, so I wrote down some notes that I will just kind of walk you guys through. So, okay, before I even went into labor, on Sunday night, a week ago, Sunday night, I was making cookies in my kitchen at like 8 o'clock. And then all of a sudden, I was overcome with this feeling like, you need to be ready. Something is gonna happen tomorrow. You need to be ready and prepared. So I spent an hour cleaning up the kitchen, putting everything away. I tidied up the living room. I think I did some laundry. Like, for whatever reason, something in my mind, my body was telling me, you need to be prepared because tomorrow is the day. So I actually went to bed knowing that I was going to go into labor the next day. So I went to bed around, I think it was close to like 11, and I just could not sleep. I had such a hard time sleeping. Every time I got up to go to the bathroom, which was multiple times, I had this weird like cramping, which I had had throughout the week before, but I just thought it was just that I needed to go to the bathroom. So a few times throughout the night, I woke up and I went to the bathroom, I had that kind of crampy feeling. And then I woke up at 5 and I had that crampy feeling. I went to the bathroom. About 15 minutes later, it came back. And then another 15 minutes later, it came back. And another 15 minutes later, it came back. And so I knew, I was like, okay, this is the start of labor in some way. I just knew. My body was like, yep, it's time to go. So by 6 o'clock, they were very regular. So they were probably around 10 minutes apart. And they felt like really strong period cramps. And when I say strong period cramps, I have had debilitating period cramps in my lifetime. And this would be probably pretty similar to those types of period cramps. They were pretty strong right off the bat for me, but nothing that I needed to like breathe through. It was just really uncomfortable. So I was in bed from that 5 o'clock when I woke up till my husband woke up at 7, and I just told him, you're not going to work today. You got to call in. And then from there, we had a really slow morning. We took our dog for a walk. I did want to try to keep moving a little bit. So we took our dog for a walk. First thing, it was probably around like 8. And when we got back, I took a gravel. It was around like 8:15, 8:20. When we got back, I took a gravel and I tried to rest. So I laid on the couch for a long time. I want to say it was until like 11. I just relaxed as much as possible. I just tried to, take deep breaths. And here's the thing as well. As soon as I noticed I was going into labor, I zoned into that. I did not look at my phone. I actually muted all of my group chats. Muted all my group chats. I didn't answer a single text message except to the people who were important to the process, like my doula. And I just zoned in. Like right off the bat, I zoned in. And I think that is a big reason why my birth went the way that it went. I texted my doula actually first thing in the morning. I let her know I was having contractions. And so she kind of checked in with me throughout the morning. Around 11, she stopped by she gave me like her bag, which had lots of supplies and stuff in there. She gave me her peanut ball. She gave me a TENS machine, all of that kind of stuff. She stopped by around 11:45. And then from 11:45 until probably like 3, my contractions really started to pick up. And so I was at home. Again, I was relaxing on the couch as much as I could. I tried sitting on the ball, but that was too uncomfortable. So I just tried like sitting, continuing to go to the bathroom to empty my bladder, like all that kind of stuff. I would say it was probably close to about 3 o'clock where my husband and I, our dog was still home. And so he was getting ready to take our dog to the kennel because he was going to stay at the kennel for about a week. So he packed up, took the dog to the kennel. Around this time, I texted my doula and I was like, these contractions are getting pretty strong. Like, I am starting to need to breathe through them. I'm having a much harder time, like talking through them. I need to really focus to get myself through each contraction a little bit more. She's like, do you want me to come? And I was like, yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know at what point I need to call the midwives. I don't know at what point we need to go to the hospital. So I was like, I would feel better if you were here and kind of like walking us through. Around that time, she was on her way. My husband was gone. I was like, I feel like I need to call the midwives. I don't know. I'm not really sure what to do. So I called the midwives. My midwife was actually off call. So I had a different midwife and I'll be honest, didn't love her. For the few conversations that I had with her. So I called the midwife. I just said, this is how close together my contractions were. I want to say they were 5 minutes apart at that point. 5 minutes apart for a good hour, and they were lasting about a minute. So the 5-1-1. And she said, Windsor's 40 minutes away from where I live. She's like, it doesn't really make sense for me to come to you. So it would make the most sense for you to just come to Windsor. So I was like, okay, I couldn't leave anyways because my husband was still gone. Kaylee, my doula, was still coming here. So I waited a few minutes. Then Kaylee got here and she was like, you know, I think you can stay home a bit longer. And one of the things that I wanted was I wanted to stay home as long as possible because I wanted an unmedicated birth, if possible. And so she said, you know, I think you should stay home a little bit longer. I think you can do a bit longer. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. And then I called my midwife back and I just said, you know, my doula just got here. She thinks that I still have a bit of time. So we just kind of want to stay home and, you know, we'll make our way there in a little bit. And she was kind of rude on the phone. I don't want to bash talk any of the midwives. It was just, she just came off unhelpful, I guess. And she said, you know what, why don't you just call me when you're gonna make your way to Windsor and I'll meet you in OB triage. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. So Kaylee was here. She was kind of coaching me through contractions. She was squeezing my hips. She was giving me some nice sacral pressure. And then she said, you know what, why don't you go sit on the toilet for a little while, like facing the tank with a pillow on top. We call it the dilation station. She put tea lights around the bathroom. The lights were off. They turned my birth playlist on. And she's like, I want you to just work through contractions here. Like, let's just focus on working through these contractions first. And then after we've worked through some contractions here, then we'll head to the hospital. At this point, they were really intense and I was having a pretty hard time. I couldn't talk through them at all. And I was, with every exhale, I was almost like mooing. So with every exhale, I was like, really honing in on those like primal noises and stuff like that. That conserves a lot of energy. So that's what I was doing with that. And it also keeps you in control. The higher pitch you usually go while you are breathing through contractions, the less in control you are of what's happening. And so allowing myself to feel the contractions, but staying in control of my breath was really important. So after the dilation station, I called the midwives back, and I just said, yeah, I think we're gonna head to the hospital now. And then my midwife, her name is Karen, she called me back and she said, I actually asked for your page back because I really, really want to be at your birth. So she actually came off call early so that she could be at my birth, which was just like the most wonderful thing. I was so thankful that she was there. So she said, okay, yeah, your contractions, and I kept having contractions while talking to her on the phone too. So she said, okay, you can head to Windsor. I'll meet you in OB triage and we'll kind of go from there. So we packed up the car, we got in the car, we drove 40 minutes. We drove through a massive rainstorm that lasted like 10 minutes on the highway. It was awful and it was scary. And then we had to drive down Walker in Windsor. If you live in Windsor, you know how bumpy Walker is. So my husband's driving, I'm sitting in the back seat, I'm like spread out, mooing like a cow with every contraction. And yeah, we get to the hospital, we make our way upstairs, which took me forever because I had to keep stopping. At this point, my contractions were like 2 minutes apart. We had to keep stopping on the way up there because I kept having to like hold on to something and breathe through every contraction I was having. So we got up to OB triage. My midwife met us there. We had to fill out a little bit of paperwork. Actually, my husband filled it out. And then we went into the triage room, which has like multiple beds in it. I changed into a gown and my midwife checked my cervix and she goes, yeah, I'd say you're about 9 centimeters dilated. Pardon? I kid you not. I thought for sure when I got to the hospital, I was going to be at like 4 or 5. I thought 1000% I was going to have hours of labor left. Hours. I was like, we're not even close. I'm going to have to do this. This was we got to the hospital around like 6:30. I thought for sure, like, this is not happening today. Like, sometime middle of the night is when I will be delivering this child. So 6:30, we got to the hospital. She checked me. I was 9 centimeters. She goes, all right, let's head down to a delivery room. We walked down there. We basically, I hopped on the bed. I started, I think, on all fours, breathing through those contractions, again, staying as in control as absolutely possible of the contractions. My husband was standing at my head. He was giving me water. He was encouraging me. They turned my music on again. And again, just coaching me through contractions. Then the second midwife showed up. She was actually a midwife who was at my sister's delivery that I was also at, and I know her very well, and I was very thankful that she was there. So I had a really, really awesome birth team that was in the room with me, and those were the only people that were in the room. My husband, my doula, and my 2 midwives, and myself. So it was a very calm environment. Everyone was very calm. Everyone was just encouraging. It was not a really high stress situation or anything like that. It was very chill, aside from obviously what I was experiencing. So I'm on all fours. I was just breathing through my contractions. Kaylee was applying counter pressure to my hips and my sacrum. And essentially they just said, you know, whenever you feel like you need to start pushing, let's push. So at about 8 o'clock, so keep in mind, we got to the hospital at 6:30, went through OB triage, went down to our delivery room, all that kind of stuff. So it was probably about 7 by the time we got to our delivery room. By 8 o'clock is when I started pushing. And so I started pushing on all fours, and didn't love it, to be honest. I thought for sure I would love being on all fours. Like, I thought 1000% I'm gonna deliver on all fours or side lying. Pushing on all fours was not good. I did not like that at all, actually. And so after a few minutes of pushing, they were like, why don't we flip onto your side or your back and kind of see how that goes. Went on my side, didn't like it. I wasn't able to push very effectively on my side. And at this point, I was starting to have a much harder time breathing. And so they were coaching me through. They were encouraging me, you know, you need to stay in control of those breaths. So continue with those really deep exhales. The higher pitched you go, the more difficult time you're going to have. So as I was breathing through, and like I said, I was having a harder time breathing. So they were like, why don't we try some nitrous oxide? And I was like, I'm literally actively pushing at this point. I was like, whatever. I don't even care. So they brought that in. I tried it. Didn't love it. It didn't really help me. Then my midwife was like, okay, let's go on your back. She tied a sheet to the squat rack, the squat bar that goes over the top of the bed. And so she attached the sheet, and then there was like 2 like little platform things. They weren't stirrups. They were like little like flat things that I put my feet on. And so I pushed my feet up against them and I pulled the sheet. So that was the most effective way of pushing for me. Now I do think postpartum that caused quite a bit of bruising to my sacrum, just the position that I was in. But it was the most effective way for me. So as I was pushing, originally I had said I don't want any artificial breaking of my waters or my membrane. But as I was pushing, like, baby was descending, and they were like, I think it will relieve a lot of pressure if we break your water for you. And so again, I was actively pushing. I was like, go ahead, do whatever you have to do. So they broke my waters. And there was meconium in the waters. If you don't know what that is, essentially he had pooped in the womb. And so what happens then is they need to make sure that they are ready to suction him, because if he has ingested any of that meconium, he can inhale it after they let him breathe, And so they need to be prepared to potentially suction. So they called NICU in. There was a couple people from NICU. They were prepared in case he was having a hard time breathing. My midwife was applying a counter pressure with warm cloths to my perineum. And then she just kept saying, you know, the perineum is pretty tight. Like, we're having, like, this is, you're gonna have to push pretty hard. And then she said something to the effect of, I don't want to have to give you an episiotomy, and 2 more pushes and he was out. Like, I was like, you are not giving me an episiotomy. And the reason that she said that was because his heart rate was starting to decrease just a little bit, and so they wanted to make sure that he didn't go into too much distress. So like I said, 2 more pushes and he was out. I was absolutely not doing that. So I was pushing to my birth playlist, which is essentially a compilation of soundtracks from my favorite movie scores and stuff like that. And my husband doesn't do great in medical situations, which is why I had a doula. And so my husband was actually spending a good chunk of time sitting on a chair in the corner. And he said he heard the theme song from How to Train Your Dragon. You guys have probably heard it. It's a very, very popular soundtrack, but the How to Train Your Dragon soundtrack is one of my all-time favorite soundtracks. It's just incredibly well done. And this theme song came on and he said, it's go time. He's like, I know that this is the song you're gonna push that baby out to. And I did. And I think that that's just like the most incredible thing. After he came out, he actually didn't need to be suctioned at all. They immediately laid him on my chest and they did not move him for quite some time. Following the delivery of this child, I started to bleed a bit, and so they gave me oxytocin, and that allowed me to deliver my placenta and prevent any sort of hemorrhaging from happening. Not that they thought it was going to happen, but just as a preventative measure. So I delivered my placenta, which happened fairly quickly, I think, after that. Part of this timeline is a little bit confusing to me. I remember it all, but the order is a little bit confusing. Following delivery of Archer and my placenta, I needed to be stitched up. I have a second degree tear towards the back and then a little tear towards the front that she just wanted to stitch up as well. So they had some stitching work to do, which I'll be honest, it was awful. That part was literally horrible. But baby was also on my chest and they were doing all the checks that they needed to do with him here. And it was very chill afterwards. Like, everyone was having good conversation and yeah, things were just like really light in the room, and we were just enjoying each other's company. I also waited for the cord to stop pulsing, and when the cord stopped pulsing, I was actually the one that cut the cord, which was pretty incredible to be able to do. And then after that, they actually took him just over to the other side of the room. They weighed him. He was 9 pounds and 1 ounce, which is crazy because I was measuring under for like the last bit of my pregnancy, and everyone, like all of the midwives that I saw were like, he's gonna be like 7 pounds probably, like it's gonna be awesome, he's gonna be a little on the smaller side. No, 9 pounds 1 ounce, so he was a big boy when he came out. Yeah, that's why we have a little bit of pelvic floor trauma that happened there. But then following that, we actually had to get out of the delivery room because they needed it, and we were staying the night anyways. So we headed to a postpartum room, which was just like down the hall somewhere. I don't know. They tried to encourage me to pee, to go to the bathroom, and I couldn't do it. I was so scared, I could not do it. So then they put me on the wheelchair, they wheeled me down to the postpartum room, and then from there we spent the night. My delivery was very fast, but my delivery went so well, and Like, honestly, the best that I think it could have gone. There is a few things that I look back on that I wish were different. Things happened the way they needed to in the moment that they happened. Hey, good morning. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of my birth story. I'm trying to think if there's anything that hold on, let me see if there's anything that I missed. And I just remember like being in the hospital when we got to the hospital and I was at 9 centimeters. There were so many nurses there and like staff who were like, you're 9 centimeters and you're walking around right now. Like I was walking, like I walked down to the delivery room. Like I said, I was really trying to stay in control of those contractions as much as absolutely possible. But it was just funny. They were all like, what? How are you? How are you walking around right now? And the best thing too is that because we got to the hospital so late, there was no chance for medication. Like there wasn't an option for an epidural or anything like that, which is kind of what I wanted. Like the later we got there, the less I would be influenced to give in to any of those things that I initially didn't want. So anyways, I'm gonna share all kinds of stuff about my postpartum recovery and just postpartum in general. So I will share all kinds of stuff like that over the next little while. I don't know when I will have a chance to film those things. We're just trying to kind of embrace this time period with our little guy and just get used to being parents. But yeah, thanks for joining me. And if you guys have any questions about my birth story, that there's probably things that I missed, and yeah, if you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask. I would love to answer any questions that you guys have. So anyways, this little guy's waking up and it's definitely time to give him some food. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. I will talk to you guys soon.